All right. So welcome back, Miss Tanis Helliwell. How are we doing today?
We are doing well because anyone who is in Kauai is doing well.
Thank you so much for tuning in. We
Yeah.
know that we caught you in Hawaii this time, so we appreciate you getting on early with us with the time difference.
Well, it was a hardship, but one of our hardships is, can you hear the roosters crowing in the background?
Yeah.
I was thinking, God, I should have on earmuffs. I was, so that you can't hear something like this. But I can't do a thing about them. They start at 3 in the morning and they go on and they go on and they go on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's
That early, huh?
yeah, it's funny
Oh
'cause
yeah.
there's no natural predator for the chicken or obviously the rooster.
Yep.
So they're all over the place.
All over in Hawaii?
Yeah, like the resorts try to you know what the resorts do? A lot of resorts will get cats and they'll let them roam around to keep the birds away.
That's
So
funny.
you don't really see them near the major resorts, but if you go outside and I've been to Maui, you don't see them too much in Honolulu, but I mean in Oahu. But you would see them all over the place.
That's so cool.
Yeah, they just run because there's no natural predator to them,
That's great.
and they just
Yes,
walk
well,
around like,
I'm
Do-
starting. I'm starting to call this one barbecue. So there,
yeah, they don't
there
like
could
that word.
there could be a natural predator here.
Yeah,
Right.
just yeah,
Oh,
it
that's
could
too
be
funny.
barbecue.
That's awesome.
Oh, right.
I have never been to Hawaii, so I definitely need to get over there because I've only heard amazing things. And Frank's been there regularly. I
Yeah.
mean, you go pretty often.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's awesome to have you there. So why are you in Hawaii or Kauai? Why are we there right now for the audience?
Oh, well, audience.
Cold in Canada.
Yeah, because it's cold in Canada.
It's cold in Canada. That's right. Numero uno.
Yeah.
Numero due is I'm editing a new book
Okay.
called The Dragon's Tail.
The Dragon's Tail, huh?
Dragon's Tail. Yeah, we're coming into the year of the dragon in just well, gosh, a few more days, a
All right.
week or so. And but I started writing this book a couple of years ago, and it's finally going to be published. So I'm glad.
Congratulations.
When do you expect it to be on the shelves, if you will?
Yep.
Well, probably not until June or July, Frank.
Okay.
I'd
So
say.
about
this
halfway
year?
through this year. All right. And
Yeah.
can
Oh,
you,
yeah. This year for sure.
Okay.
And it's God, how to say it in how to summarize what it is. It's about a dragon I'm talking to who is on the dragon world, because there are more than one world of conscious beings evolving. And he's talking to me about the importance of dragons in the evolution of humanity and the earth, and how the great cosmic dragon is here now helping to birth the earth.
okay.
And that all of the earthquakes and the volcanoes and the weather disruptions are also part of the earth moving to a higher frequency. There's a Chinese image, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it shows a dragon embracing an egg.
Yes.
You know that, and that is the earth.
Yeah.
That is the earth. So he talks to me about that, and then also he takes me to the dragon world so that I can see what it's like to be a dragon on the dragon world. So
Yeah, can you explain your perception of the dragon? Because a lot of people that perceive dragons in shows, they look at the dragon as somewhat of an enemy type of thing. I know, but it's really
It's more of a protector.
well, yeah, it's more symbolic than that. But in film and shows, they use him as that type of almost a scary entity rather than one of gentle. Although you start to see him slowly doing that.
yeah, that's a really good question. And in our Western world, that is the way we see the dragon. But in the Oriental world, as you said, Mike, it is a protector. In fact, it was the emperor always aligned himself, or her himself, yes, with the dragon.
Beautiful.
All right.
So I've
Mhm.
actually heard, I can't remember where I've heard this, but apparently we all have dragon kind of entities that are there that we can call on. Is that your take as well? I've heard that we all have like these protecting elements, these dragons that we can call on for assistance, guidance, through this material world. Is that something you found in your channeling or in your, experience?
Gosh, that's an interesting question. I never considered it before.
Yeah,
But if I do look at it right now, the answer is obvious to me because we've got a guardian angel,
Mhm.
and we call on our guardian angel for mercy or peace or forgiveness or any of those wonderful qualities, healing. And we also have a friendly elemental friend that we can also call on. You guys know that mine is Lloyd, the leprechaun, who
yeah.
I've written several books with.
Mm.
So we can have that being who helps us with being in the world and being playful and spontaneous and joyful. And then yes, a dragon is a protector, and a dragon is wise. So we can call on the dragon for wisdom, and also they're far-sighted, long-lived and far-sighted. And so we can look at where we're going individually or his humanity or the earth, and how do we stay on track. Mhm.
Yeah, I actually just heard somebody, and this is a quote, that wisdom is learning something new every day. Knowledge is learning something new every day, and wisdom is letting go of something every day.
I love that.
And that's
I
kind of it is. We're learning to let go of, in this time, letting go of the old understandings and beliefs that kind of held us down. And the dragon is part of that. That's the flight part of the dragon, and burning off with the fire. There's different representations of what the dragon does and represents. And I think all those are put together.
I love that.
Utilized. Obviously, you could turn anything into negative, but I see it as positive. But yeah,
I do too, because the dragons they know how to balance every element. If you
yeah,
think of it, they fly in the air, they swim in the water,
yeah,
they breathe fire,
yeah,
and they also live in caves.
I,
yeah,
So that's the earth. So,
yeah,
gosh, that's so
yeah. They
exciting.
deal with all the elements. Yeah,
So we'll keep an eye out for that book because that's going to be a great read. So
yeah,
thank you for kicking us off with that.
yeah. And then we'll have you on again when that book comes out.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to have you back.
Yeah, yeah,
Congratulations on this. It's taken the last 2-3 years.
Yes, always.
yeah.
I edit and then I do more editing.
Of
So
course.
Yeah.
I am a slow writer because I like to do the best job I can. Don't you guys too?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, don't you find, because I do this all the time too, it's like I'll write a book and I'm like, okay, I'm done, but I'm really not done. But it's almost like there's a part of me that always wants to speed things up, but then I've learned that, like, no, this information hasn't come to me yet based on whatever process I need to go through to even finish the book. So I've learned to slow up there. That's why the timing of the book is based on, like, your guides telling you.
Mhm.
Like, you'll know when it's done. Obviously, you're in the editing phase, so you're coming to a landing. But I've learned that over the years of writing, because I got a couple of books out there. Um, one's published, but the other ones are in the work. And now I've learned to just slow down and actually enjoy the process rather than trying to get it done.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
yeah.
that is
So
so great. I do the same. I sometimes I'll go for a couple of months and I won't even touch it,
yeah,
because I'm waiting for the next inspiration.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Right on.
Well,
So
congratulations on your books, Frank. That's
Yeah,
super.
same here too.
that is
Yeah.
exciting. So we're stepping into the year of the dragon. I love that. That's a good little segue. And then, as you know, this Aquarian age. What can you tell us a little bit about where we're at? Heading here into 2024. I've heard a lot is going on in the cosmos. Just related to us stepping into a different age and different time. What's your take on that, Tanis?
We're in the breaking up phase. So if we think of the earth as as moving to being reborn to a higher frequency. The image I always get on this, Mike, is that of a little chicken, and the shell is cracking. So that's the stage we're getting to right now. It's the cracking of the old, which is the dissolution of the old. And this is going to affect us too, because we're cells in the body of the earth. So it's the letting go and the loosening of everything that is stuck and is of the old world. So that our frequency can rise as well. So it isn't an easy time. It's a dying process. When people are going through this, there's a lot of ego resistance to it. A lot of fighting to keep the status quo, which we see as organizations are crumbling around us.
Yeah.
And yet everything is called into visibility so that nothing can be hidden anymore. Everybody who's got secrets or something under the carpet that they would like to hide, forget it.
Yeah, it's
It
over.
used to, yeah, it used to be that you could get away with that your whole life and maybe only pay for it 3 lives in the future when you reincarnated. But now, oh no, your karma is coming home to roost in this life. So it's wonderful because it's a purification stage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Very
So
well
it's
said.
like you represented the shell. It's like the shell is a place where you could hide out and hide all your secrets, but now it's cracking. And some people are, so, and that's why, the last time you were on, you just came, I don't know if you just came out, but you were talking about a course that you had on ancestral families and stuff like that, learning about that.
Mhm.
And now you have a new course. I believe it will help people in this new transitional period to open up to seeing what's happened, because I think with the pain, if you understand what's going on, the discomfort of the human body and even the psyche, if you understand that it's going to resolve into something great, you'll actually bring it on. It's kind of like going to the gym. If you lift weights, it seems to be painful. Like you wake up a day or two later and your arms are sore, or whatever body part you worked. Understanding how the physiology of the body works, you actually you praise that.
Mhm.
Where if you didn't know that, you'd like run to the doctors. There's something wrong with me. I'm like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. This is part of the process. Is no, the pain generates a new cycle of opening up, what I call G-force. And
Mm.
if you think people like, oh my God, what's going on? I'm like, oh, it's like, every child that comes through the birth canal is very painful for the child and the mother. But what's on the other end of that is the most beautiful thing. It's giving birth to a new life. So I'm assuming your course is going to teach people that. I know your works overall do, that this pain we're going through is so worth it. So start, yeah,
Let's talk about the
yeah.
name of this course too. What the name of the course is? Answer Your Soul's Call, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so tell us a little bit about this.
well, I think that Frank did a great job um, to summarize the importance of it, and that is that we're coming out of the time of the personality dominating everything we do, and the personality wants immediate gratification. And that is chocolate, sex, alcohol, playing with friends, smoking cigarettes, um, getting lots of money, buying lots of tools, these kinds of things that will satisfy immediately. Now, the soul is into long-term happiness in alignment with a divinity, really.
Yeah.
Because I believe we're kindergarten gods. We're kindergarten creators on this planet. So how do we get these two together? So in the Piscean age, it was develop the individual. Now we're moving to a time of interdependence, not independence, but interdependence. And I think we have to have our personality aligned with the soul. So I call it a soul infused personality. So we've got the right vessel, we've got the right personality, we've got the right gender, although some people might disagree. We've got we've got we're the right age, we're the right state of health, temperament, the right gifts to fulfill our soul's purpose, because our soul, which is incarnated God knows how many lifetimes, chooses a construct each lifetime to move us ahead. And that construct is a personality. And at the end of our life, this lifetime, this personality goes, but the soul is still there. So I think, hey, folks, let's listen to the soul
Yeah. Yeah.
and find out what the soul wants this personality, our unique personality, to do right now. Like, get on board.
Yeah.
So that's what the course is about, really, looking at, what does the soul want, and how to do this, and what are the things that get in our way.
Yeah, and I like how you use that analogy, listen to the soul. It's almost like a great actor learns to really listen to the director rather than take it upon themselves to know what they're doing. And just every 10 minutes, the director has to say cut.
Mhm.
Uh, and also too, what I liked about coming into this stuff, there's a lot of people at all levels. Like there's a book I'm reading right now called The Comfort Crisis. So these books that I'm reading, like you seem to be pitching stuff at like a higher level, and as I see it, as these books, but these books are coming on to something, and they realize putting off instant gratification does better for the physiology of the body. But you're talking about the soul play. You're talking about like a higher realm. But it's very interesting. You're seeing at other levels, people are talking about this.
The
Like,
correlation.
yeah, the correlation. It's amazing. Like jumping into cold shower. A lot of people are doing that to cold water because it puts off instant gratification, but then gives a long-term stability of feeling great. Where just laying in bed or, like you said, having chocolate sex or what have you is instant, but then it drops the second it's gone. It's fleeting so quickly. Where I think years ago, things stayed around longer. That's all we knew. But now things are fleeting. So we're trying to grab onto water and you can't.
Mhm.
And
Well,
you're seeing that
yeah.
all over the place.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a time of quick movement, just like you said, and we cannot hold on to anything
No.
right now. And that is a wonderful lesson in just flowing with it. And I really liked also what you said about this other book, and how it's the same message, but geared to another level.
Yeah.
And I think this is really important, that that this is what the soul wants. It wants each person to identify their specific gift that only they can do. So I can't be the person who wrote that other book,
No.
and that person can't be me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a blessing, and it's a wonderful thing that we find out where our particular talent is, just like with you guys
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah.
And then we sparkle.
Yeah. Because every
Absolutely.
actor, even the extras on the set, are every equally needed. There might be a focal point on a particular actor or persona, but if everyone went away and only the person that the focus was on, it would be a weird movie or story.
Well, I think a lot of that happens because we have this ego, we have this personality who's trying to identify and say, "Oh, I want that," rather than seeing and recognizing the gifts that have always been here, that are within us. And so it's very easy for us to kind of chase that shiny object, saying, "No, I want that role. I want to play that character on stage,"
Yeah.
And I think what Tanis is getting at is like, with the personality, very much our ego construct identity. It's learning to recognize that and let go.
Yeah, and you're starting to see people do that. Very few people actually want to now be in the spotlight anymore.
Mhm.
You know, I'm starting to see it even in the world of people being famous or
Mhm.
wanting to be famous. You're starting to see people that higher levels of fame are actually talking about these concepts to whatever degree they understand it. You know, I only can talk about the degree in which I understand it, and it's echoing through our universe right now.
Yeah.
So it's like it seems like everyone's on board. We're just at different positions of the ship, if you will. And one position isn't better, just it's different, like you mentioned. Like you wrote the book in which you wrote it, and this other gentleman wrote the book differently, but yet it's it's to tell the same story just differently. Just like every ray of sunshine comes from the sun, but every ray has its different tree or individual it shines on.
Mhm.
But yet it all comes from the same source. And that's what we're
Yes.
supposed to understand.
Yes, and this idea that you've introduced also, Mike, and that Frank's continued with, this idea of comparing ourselves to others, that there's this is such a waste of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just registered. I think if we register our success based only on what happens here in this third dimensional reality, this is completely erroneous,
Yeah.
because it's our success is evaluated by our soul on how well we did on whatever our soul wanted us to learn. And what if, for example, we had been a bit of a tyrant in another life, and our soul gave us a difficult life this time, where we needed to learn humility and compassion and forgiveness. And so what did we get? We got a spouse that had a terminal illness. We got a difficult mother and father issue.
Mhm.
We got people not recognizing us and firing us from jobs. We had ADD, right?
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
yeah, but what was but if the person evaluates their success based on, well, I worked in a gas station,
Mhm.
then that's erroneous, because their real success is, did you learn compassion, forgiveness, and all these other wonderful qualities?
Yeah. And Tanis, that's a beautiful way of saying it, because that gives people the question like, why is this happening to me? It gives them a different way of looking at it in a more brilliant way. And actually, I think a more powerful way. Because, you know, I often say, like, why would any individual join the Navy SEALs? It's a very difficult course to go through because they want to see how powerful they are. So at some level, our soul gave us a persona that went through a lot of hurt and what have you. Why would we choose that? Because we want to see if we can get through it. And it probably, and it was a replication of karma, because maybe we're on the other end of it the last time. But at some level, we know we can get through it. And when you actually empirically know it, the pain will exist, but suffering won't. And I
Mhm.
think people are suffering because they don't understand it. But you're still going to feel the G force of a plane landing. But if you think it's crashing, you're going to suffer. Well, it's just like we're almost there. It's you know it's taken off. It's almost there, or whatever. But when you understand it from that viewpoint, it actually is more satisfying. Yes, there's still going to be challenges, pain, but the suffering and the fear will simply disappear when you look at it from that perspective from which you just said. So that was beautifully
Well,
said.
that is looking at it from the soul's
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah,
How do you allow yourself to look at it personally, Tanis? Like well, like, can you give us an example from your lifetime or this lifetime on Earth that you were like, wow, this is a soul contract of mine that I came here to express, I came here to learn, I came here to remember. Can you dive into something like that?
Gosh, it's actually, I look at my whole life like that, but let's see if I can think of a few examples. Okay. One example is, currently I have long haul COVID,
Okay.
and I've had it for about a year. And I am a healthy person who hardly ever gets sick.
yeah,
And but I have this, and it's in my lungs.
Okay.
Now, um, when I think about this, I think of, okay, Yes, I know that there is a weakness in my lungs that comes from my ancestral line.
Okay.
But I also think there's more to it than this. Yes, I've seen myself in other lives dying of consumption. That's another level.
Mhm.
And then I think, yes, but there's more than this. In Chinese medicine, lungs have to do with grief. And currently, my brother is extremely ill. He has asbestos cancer in his lungs.
Yeah.
And so I feel, and he's on, continually having to have a tube to empty out his lungs.
Mhm.
So I think that those are three layers that this illness is giving me the opportunity to experience. So rather than saying, how terrible, I have long haul COVID, I think, oh,
What
Yeah.
experiences am I gaining from this? What am I learning here?
yes,
But it gives
yes.
you compassion now for your brother. And I think there's something about that, like because if somebody was perfect in the way the idealistic perfection would be, as the ego would say it, those people would not understand others. But a lot of times we are taken to our knees just so we can stand supporting other people. So, you always hear this too, where um, when a couple is pregnant, and people like get mad at me when I say that, but when a woman's pregnant, the husband will gain a little bit of weight along with the woman. And like, what's happening? Like, well, I'm sure he doesn't go through the same agony that she does when she gives birth, but there's something that goes on there. And
Mhm.
and maybe it is okay, it's compassion for, obviously at lower levels of looking at, like, a woman's getting heavy when she's pregnant. Like, yeah, it's supposed to happen. Stop trying to get, try to lose the weight while you're having the child. But there's some bit of compassion for people that would never experience that, such as a man would never experience what it's like to give birth to a child. They can only imagine. So men sometimes go, if they're connected with the woman closely, they go through something with the woman a little bit, not as bad, but it gives them a little more compassion to understand what they're going through, rather than like, I don't see what your problem is, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, that's a great example. I have another one in my life if I can, because now
Please,
that Mike's asked this question, I just want to give this one too.
please. Uh-huh.
My partner has prostate cancer,
Okay.
and they put him on female hormones because the idea is you've got too much testosterone. We've got to knock out the testosterone so that the prostate cancer will be controlled. And he started having heart flashes. He
Oh,
started having mood disruptions,
yeah.
um, getting osteoporosis, all these things that happen to women.
Yeah.
And I said the same thing to him. I said, "Oh, sweetheart," not that he wanted to hear this. "Oh,
Right.
sweetheart, now you understand what women go through every month when their monthly cycle, and especially when they're in menopause. I don't like it." He says.
Right?
Yeah, welcome to the club. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
funny how that works.
Yeah, and I
Mhm.
think that is part of, like, what we see here is, both men and women both have, feminine and masculine in them, and I think it's about leveling out or evening out to come into this period in time, like the Aquarius stage we're coming into, when you start to do that. So you talk about coupling and not doing it alone. So a man in the previous cycle was able to do it alone as a masculine, and the women was separated by feminine. So each individual now is actually merging, not just with other people, but merging the masculine and feminine right now. And we're starting to see this happening. That's probably why we do, you mentioned earlier, like people having changes and taking hormones because they feel like they're a man in a woman's body or a woman either way. And maybe there's a little confusion there. I'm not a psychologist to indicate that there's even something wrong with that. I don't really talk too much about that, but there seems to be something going on there. And I know individually for me, I'm learning to become, listen to my more intuitive part, which is the feminine part of me, rather than the intellectual part that says that ain't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting better at it. So I'm merging more with that. And that unification is where we are right now, not the individual ego, if you will, which men really can hold on to strongly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Those days are,
Yes,
at least for me.
yeah, I agree. I think we are becoming androgynous.
Yeah.
And when you are mentioning that men becoming women, women becoming men, my stepson has now become my stepdaughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, in her 40s as well, after 2 children. So I think that this is part of this experimental phase we're in
Yeah.
to become androgynous. I believe we're androgynous beings,
Mhm.
um, and that this is a time when all experimentation is up for grabs.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's part of what is happening. And
Yeah.
how can we judge it? How we can't judge it.
No. Yeah, because I think years ago, this has been going on for a long time, but now it's happening a lot. So even people that are strongly against it, they're literally looking at like, okay, what is going on? So it's forcing them to even look at it differently. It really is. And
Yes.
you'll see that person that was against it, and then their son turns into a daughter, or a daughter into a son, a son. And so they're forced to actually face it from a different perspective, because no matter what, even though they say it, they love their child unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
And it's people like, what's going on? When you say what's going on, it loosens up your ability to judge a little bit,
Yes.
not fully, but a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm.
yeah, and people are like, what do you think's going on? I'm like, it's a huge change, all these different things. I can't really pinpoint what's happening, but yet again, I'm not worried. I believe we're moving into a greater essence of humanity, or the next stage of humanity. It's not that the old one was bad; it's just we're done.
Well, I also think that we're starting to see or experience that we're not just this body. We're not just this instrument. And I think that's a lot what's going on with people nowadays is they're having different types of feelings. They're resonating with different types of things. And so it's not just a physical type of experience now. We are accessing these higher areas of our consciousness, whether that's something we're trying to do on purpose, or whether that's just something that's naturally happening in our evolution.
Yes. Yeah. I think you're right on that. I think that's very important, and I think it's something that I like it when you say, "Are we do? Is it on purpose, or is it something that's happening in our evolution?" And
Yeah,
you know what? It could be both.
yeah, yeah. Because I want to ask you, yeah, I want to ask you about this, because I've asked a couple of people about this
Mm.
question. So, when certain people are going through it and they're trying to change their outward world, they're at a certain level, and there is no greater level. I mean, there's no better or worse level. There's just greater and less than, but not in a negative connotation. But for some people, like, they may feel the inner world, but they don't need to express it outward. But yet there's some people need to express it outward as well. So there seems to be this dance going on right now. Like, and I don't know if people at a higher realm could say, okay, I feel a little more feminine, but I don't need to show the world that based on where I'm at. They don't need to necessarily outwardly express it, but just have immense compassion for those who are on that realm of expressing it outwardly. And
Mhm.
because in some cases it confuses a lot of people, perhaps even the people going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to know who, this is once again, who are we meant to reach?
Yeah.
So, and I know some people, for example, who are in, a friend of mine, one of my long-term students, is in politics, and and she is a member of a very conservative party that I would never personally vote for. Um,
But you would have to.
and yet she
Yeah.
studied with me for like 20 years, and I'm kind of at the other end of conservative. And she says, well, I am a bridge between the Piscean and the Aquarian age. And I call people like this cancers for good. They go and infiltrate,
Right.
and then they change the structure from within.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, because if you start knocking people for being different than you, you actually just create an enemy. But if you actually see the parallels, the support, because now it's no longer about being opposing in energy, it's actually being supportive.
Yes.
So if I have a beam leaning this way, I don't have someone opposing it, supporting it. If one falls, one goes. I think that's the unification within each individual of us, and then collectively in our societies, community, family, and so forth, and go on into each country, each world, collectively coming together. But like I look at the conservative and liberal movement as one homogenous, complete kit. In order to
Yeah.
liberate higher, I have to understand the conservation of principles, say in gravity, in order to liberate higher. So they're not opposing each other, they're actually supporting each other. So I believe we're coming out of the world where these concepts don't oppose each other, they actually support each other. Just like the heads and the tails support themselves to actually have a quarter so we can spend the 25. I don't think 25 cents is worth anything anymore, but yeah, it's 3 I'll just want 5.
But still, it
Yeah.
makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. And it's this thing about there is no enemy.
No.
There's, yeah, to get past this idea of an enemy. And at the same time that you think, okay, we still have to know who is our audience,
Yeah.
right? Who is
Yeah.
our audience? And when we're with people who are part of our family, if you want to call it, whether it's on Zoom, like with you guys, or whether it's on the street with a stranger, or whether it's with a friend, it doesn't matter. You've got 1 + 1 = 3. When we're with people who are aligned with us, we grow a third entity, which is greater.
Yeah.
When we're with people who are not aligned, it's an energy loss.
It's an interference pattern. Yeah.
It's an interference pattern. And so part of the time we're at, I really think, even though I recognize everything you said about, we need the conservative and then we need the Republicans. This is an American analogy. Um, uh, um, even though we have that and we know that we need to have all of this to make a whole, we still, knowing our soul, needs to think of, and where do I fit in? Where do I put my energy?
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of trying to be everything to everybody at all times. And
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
tiring.
Yeah.
It's tiring.
Yeah. Superman needed Lex Luthor to fulfill his role. So
yeah.
when we start to understand that, I think a lot more unity will come out of that rather than divisiveness. Even though we're in a time where there's a lot of unity and divisiveness at the same time, depending where you look, right? Like you could turn on certain news broadcasts and there's a lot of divisiveness, but then you turn on Gaia and there isn't. you know, so we have choices to where to look for information today, and I'll look at things that are divisive just from a viewpoint of like, okay, if I'm ever placing a part where I want to infiltrate that place, I have to kind of know about it, not to judge it, but to understand it. Or else, if I don't understand it, it's like I'm in a foreign country, and what good would I do?
I like that you said understand specifically, because when we come from a place of understanding rather than a place of this is my opinion, it's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
And that's really what this is all about, is it's understanding, hey, look, there is a different perspective here that is not that I'm not used to, but I have the ability to hear that out. I have the ability to put myself in those shoes, and that understanding allows me to continue to grow, allows me to grow with these different individuals. And like we were talking about, we are a self-organizing society. That's what this universe is. We're self-organizing, self-governing. all of the above. And so when we have this level of understanding, we begin to work so much more cohesively with one another.
Yeah.
Yes, and in this understanding, I love the word discernment. I've worked in many forums in my life. I was an organizational consultant for over 30 years. So my daytime job was leading courses in dynamics of change and stress and burnout, and leadership in organizations like IBM, and for banks and environmental companies. This was my work. And then on weekends and nights, I was doing all my spiritual workshops. And I was doing both. And what I found, though, is some people would say to me, how did you do that for 30 some years? I was a faculty member for the Banff Center for Leadership, for example, for 22 years. How did you do this for so many years? And I said, it was discernment of what I could talk with about in that environment. But, and this is a really important point, I said I was only working with 50% of who I am.
When you were working in,
Yeah, I could only be 50%. I mean, when I first started, I would have said more like I could only be 25%. And maybe by the time I ended, I was up to 50% of who I am.
which is
And,
a good jump.
I'm, yeah, well, I had people with three-piece suits lying down on the ground doing guided visualizations, and people would say, how the heck
It
did
sounds like you
you
went more
do
like
that? Like
75% if you had a guy in a three-piece suit
accountants
laying
and
down.
engineers.
Yeah.
And I'd say, well, it never crossed my mind they wouldn't do it.
Right.
Like literally, it never crossed my mind. So of course they're going to do it.
I was just gonna say, that's why.
Yeah, and they did it. But anyway, but now I'm at a point where I want to be 100% of what I am.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, this discernment of following what your soul. So we can develop all these personality gifts that look to the outside world as what is success. But what does the soul want?
Yeah.
Right? I want to be 100% aligned with my soul now.
Yeah. But I think your background, and this might be the grand story of you, like you can actually take the banker now that will on the weekend go lay down and do a meditation and may come into work and like, hey, how was your weekend? It was good. And they might not talk about it, but you out being 100% allow them to actually jump into maybe now they're where they were 100% in the other direction. Now they might have
Yes.
10, 90%. So you're actually allowing people to integrate.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
You're showing people there's more to this.
when I listen to your stuff, even that when I was looking at your stuff and reading your book, and then the last conversation, even this one, you take these concepts that can to some people be far out there, and you make them very natural.
Yeah.
Like it's just you assimilate very easy into these concepts where even the most rigid person, left brain, would consider it. At least, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because you
And
bring,
that,
yeah.
thank you very much. And thank you. That is something, that's a quality I would really like to have and deeply appreciate that you
Yeah.
think
You
I
do.
Yeah, you definitely
And
do that.
yeah, and this is this bit about there's not an enemy. And I believe that all people are wanting the same thing,
Mhm.
basically. They want to be loved and give love. They want to feel that their life has meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
And be aligned to that. I think it's that simple.
That's
And
it.
so all my work, no matter where it is and with whom, has always had that focus.
Yeah. So you're like a chameleon.
Great point.
You could take the work and you could take your body and go into different places, and you'll represent that place, but offer 100% of what you're learning or teaching, rather than say, no, I'm just going to talk to people that are already spiritually advanced. It's like, no, you're like the chameleon in the spiritual world that because you don't scare people off. You actually blend in with the background, and which is the most
Hey.
difficult thing we can do.
Literally.
Yeah.
Well, there's another thing too that we could say about this that we haven't said, and that is that it isn't even what we say, it's our energy.
You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
That, yeah,
Well,
and that our energy changes people, even if we don't even open our mouths.
yes.
You know, it's funny when I was I was in Hawaii, we were in Oahu, and Karen and I, that's my wife, we went to this Buddhist temple, and after we went through it, it was actually, there was a Catholic church on the same property. It was really nice. And we go through this thing, and they were having like a bazaar, and there was artists there selling paintings and stuff. And there was one gentleman sitting there, and he wasn't talking. And at first, I thought he was doing a vow of silence. It turns out he was deaf, which was the
Oh.
joke on me, because I'm like, oh, this guy's on a vow of silence. And then I bought a piece of his art, and Karen was looking at it. It's like, this guy's deaf. I'm like, oh, I thought it was a vow of silence.
That's so funny.
So it was my perception of it. But there is something, I don't know, magical about how you pulled into these different ways of looking at things. It just, and that was something that came to me. And now this painting holds dear to me because of my misconception of what was going on, but the thing is, the guy wasn't able to talk, but his smile resonated with me. And of all the artwork there, I was drawn to him, not his work. And then I looked down, and there was this painting there that I'm like, I have to have this. And it was because he couldn't talk. I thought it was just do it a vow of silence. But yeah, it was this
That's a cool
energy.
story.
It just pulled me in. I don't know why. It just pulled me right to him.
Well, and
Yeah.
the same thing with you, Tanis, with the example you just shared with the gentleman in the 3-piece suit. You had the ability just by simply sharing, and it's so natural in your state, as if this is not something abnormal, as if this is something absolutely beneficial, that people can tell and sense when someone is genuine. People can resonate and feel that energy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's going on. And I think that is something that we are now seeing more of, is people are allowing themselves, to let go of the thinking mind and let go of that judging mind and naturally free flow with what feels good. But it also goes back to your state of mind, which is, I never even would imagine he wouldn't. And that state is where I really want to help bring people back to, which is that power that we inherently have, which is, hey, how you go into a situation, how you hold your energy, how you feel yourself absolutely affects the outcome.
Yes, and what you're talking about, the word that resonates for me is be authentic. If people are their authentic self, then there are no barriers. Everything is open. It's like an open, harmonious resonance that they are giving out. And that authenticity is their soul, Mike, just as you're saying. It is their soul. And that's why this course, Answer Your Soul's Call, it's not trying to be something that you're not. It's the absolute opposite of relaxing and just be yourself in the best possible way.
Right.
Can you give her an overview of what this course, like when people go to sign on, what they to expect to happen? I know it starts on the 15th of February, you said, right?
Yeah, it does. Well, first of all, I recommend, and I recommend this to everybody, that at the beginning of the year, and here we still are in January, that people make a list. Just let it pop out of what is, like, if they were to die tomorrow, what would they be happy that they had done in their life? So just like, are there going to be 3 things, 6 things, 10 things, whatever? Look at your list. And then just think of which things here are really important and which ones are personality. And that doesn't mean that they're not important. I think we need to have personality things that are going to give us little happy moments as we go through some of the more difficult ones. So
Yeah.
we want to have some of those personality things in there to prop up our soul.
Yeah.
But we have to still have some soul things that we feel really have to happen. And that can be leave your job. Like, hey, you've been talking about it for 5 years. Well, do it.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever it is. So focus on that. Then look at, and I call it your sub-personalities. People think, oh, I've only got one personality, but no, we've got all these aspects.
Yeah, my
You
wife
know,
calls me mine.
Yep.
yeah. Like you've got a personality
Yeah.
that likes to go and work out.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to have that one, you know, you've got a personality that you could call the lover.
Mhm.
You could have a personality that that's the best friend. Maybe you have a part of your personality called the hero.
Yeah.
Maybe you've got a personality, the thing is the boss and it drives you.
Mhm.
Maybe you've got so I get people to name the aspects of their sub-personalities and then look at which ones are undernourished. And if you've got an undernourished part, it's going to sabotage you getting your goal.
Mhm.
So we need to find ways to nurture these various aspects. So we've got this happy personality.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things. Of course, there's many more because I do guided visualizations for each. I've got 5 modules, 5 different times we meet, and I do guided visualizations attuned specifically to help them with those issues. But I love this subpersonality aspect. You know, I think it's lots of fun.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
because we don't identify, or we think we've got just this one personality, this ego identity. And
Yeah.
so it's very hard for a lot of us to let go of that, because we think, oh, this is how my family and friends and, people I interact with at work know me as. If I'm not this, then who am I? And this is a scary feeling for a lot of people, but it's learning to shed that and understand that these are just simply stories and narratives that we've carried with ourselves in a backpack our whole lives, saying, this is who I am. This is who I am. And we can easily take that out and let it, just fall out of your back.
Air it and look at the aspects. Like today, I've got on my pink sweater, and this is Cherie. Cherie came to talk to you today.
Nice.
Right on. Yeah.
She likes this pink sweater and she likes these earrings. So, why not let Cherie have a part of this conversation?
Yeah,
I
there's
love
something
it.
beautifully said about that because a lot of people are responsive. So if you believe you only have one characterization, one persona, and then the outside world circumstance are constantly changing, one persona might be prepared for this type of situation, but not for the other ones. So like a great actor, yeah, like a great actor stepping on multiple movie sets has to prepare the character for that particular one. But like say Tom Hanks playing Forrest Gump would not he couldn't take Forrest Gump when he played Captain Phil. It would have not been well. Like every role he's playing Forrest Gump. Like, no. So what you're saying, if I'm getting this right, is as we develop our other sub personalities, the world that we live in becomes more harmonious rather than if I only have that one persona that I only focus on and I develop, I am stuck in a role, but yet the act keeps changing and there it becomes the problem. Is that
Oh,
kind of what you're saying?
gosh,
Yeah.
boy, yes, yes. Did you ever wrap that up in a nice package? I like that. I'm going to remember exactly how you did that.
I don't remember.
Free flowed nice.
Yeah, yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about, Tanis, is this etheric clearing technique that you do. Is this something that you work into answer your soul's call? Is this something that you'll be helping individuals kind of realize that they can do?
It's the clearing of the old thought forms, and that actually belongs to another one of my courses called Transform Yourself.
Okay.
But yes, it does. That's part. I mean, the guided visualizations are part of another course. However, at base, everything I do everything, Mike, is for me to look at what are your thought forms? What are your stuck places? And how do we loosen them up
Yeah.
and look at how you become the director of your own personality.
Gotcha.
You make choices of what steps forward. And I think of it as this flexible toolkit that we've got. But if we've got under-nurtured parts, like think of people, for example, who have a strong desire to have a partner. They have this strong lover, companion part, and they haven't got a partner, and they haven't had one for 10 years or 20 years. Like, how can they find other ways of letting this lover, this nurturing part of themselves, this companion part, be nurtured, right? So we've and rather than just saying, oh, making up lists ad infinitum of my my mate would be this, and this, and God, he hasn't shown up for 20 years and I'm miserable. Oh, come on, get on with it.
Yeah.
Think of how you can get that part nurtured in different ways,
Yeah.
healthy ways.
It's like a craftsman becoming more in tune with a new tool in order to fulfill whatever they're building. Because a hammer and screwdriver can't build a whole house. So
Yeah.
you need other tools to refine yourself. And if you're only good with a hammer and screwdriver, it'd be very difficult to have a stable house anyway, you know? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I run into a lot of people that have these issues, and they're, like you said, they're trying to work, they're trying to hit the hammer harder rather than using the whatever other tool they need to be using. And that's why they fall into this cycle. And we all do it. Like I can only explain this to or
Personal
understand
experience.
this based on what I go through, what I've been going through. So I love how you explain that.
Well, and I
That's
also
very well
think
done.
the moment that happens, the moment you start to, allow these avenues to be or allow this feeling to be filled in other ways and other avenues, is when it's that moment of letting go. It's the moment of something having to work out in a specific way, and when we do this, we naturally allow the gifts, we naturally allow the love to pour in, and that's going to bring your manifestation to you sooner. And so maybe that's just what you need to find that partner, is these different avenues is going to bring you to that ideal partner that your heart is desires.
But if somebody's out there like listening
Yeah.
to us right now, choosing to take your course, the thing I would recommend is get into a place of like, get excited about learning about that new sub personality rather than,
Yeah.
okay, I have to get this over with. I'm like, no, the process, whenever I go and do these type of processes, I love the actual process. Yeah. What comes from the process, right? You think about two individuals, engaging in a sexual activity. Well, what comes from that, right? It could be a child, but they weren't, it'd be weird. I'm like, okay, we have to have a child. Let's do it now. It'll be kind of robotic. But in the process, when they're in the moment, they're enjoying it. And because of that, this other expression came from that process. So learn to love the process, not get through the process, because that's how you learn about yourself. Like
Yeah.
actors love to take on new roles because there's a whole new process they have to go through. It never ends. It's beautiful. It never ends. Yeah.
That's right. Just as long as we're alive,
Yeah.
there's no such thing as retirement from life.
No, it's not. It is, it is funny how people like, and because there are people that I'm friends with that are encroaching coming on retirement, and the idea of retirement is completely changed from say like 2 generations ago. Back then they probably got a couple more years than me. Now it's like people are retiring and it's like they still have another 30, 40 years, however you look at it. They still have the capacity to do whatever. So the word retirement is kind of funny now.
Yeah.
Like
It
retire
is.
from what? It's like, no,
Yeah.
you're just getting a new career. That's what you're doing,
Mhm.
We're moving on to
That's
something.
right.
Yeah.
That's the way our soul regards it.
Yeah.
Just as long as we're here, we need to be learning and growing and evolving. And and in meeting all the challenges and seeing them as opportunities.
That's the old world falling away,
Sure it is.
which
Yeah.
is so beautiful, you know? It's exciting.
So with
It
this
is
course,
so
yeah,
exciting.
how many
And
days?
we're lucky to be here.
Yeah, we are lucky to be here.
That's for sure.
Yeah, like the world's happening for us, not to us. Is I like somebody said that. I like that
That is
phrase.
a true statement.
So how many days is this course? So how is it broken down for anyone that might want to know about it?
Yeah.
Well, as you said, it starts on February 15th, and it's for an hour and a half
Okay.
Once a
for
week.
5 weeks.
Okay.
Oh, nice. All right.
So it's about the length of a Zoom call,
Okay.
and everything's recorded. So my talk is recorded. The guided visualizations, they get those as well with beautiful music.
Great.
They get a workbook so that they get exercises to do in their workbook. We meet in small groups. So there's small groups of like 4 or 5 people,
Okay.
so that people get a chance to talk about what came out for them in their exercise on their subpersonality, for example.
Okay.
So it's the community sharing, it's the guided visualization to go in, it's the exercises that they do themselves, and it's listening to moi.
Okay. All right.
And they get the whole thing forever. So
Yeah.
mm,
All
That
right.
is great.
Perfect. So
mhm.
even if this passes on, like it's going to start on the 15th, this thing will be still packaged in on your website, right?
It won't be packaged right now on my website. It may be a year before it gets launched as a self-study program.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Because now it
And
is somewhat interactive.
yeah, there are self-study programs on my website currently,
Okay.
but it takes a while before we take an online and make it into a self-study.
Okay. Perfect.
How
All
do
right.
you how do you personally, Tanis, allow yourself to fall into these types of, states of consciousness in different realms? I know meditation is a practice of yours. Is there any other practices or any techniques that you help guide individuals with, or to essentially let them kind of get into that moment, that state of silence, where they're not participating necessarily in this outer world experience, but now participating on the inner world? Because I feel like that is a big part of getting these sub personalities to work in, conjunction with the, direction you're trying to go, if you will.
Yes, what a good question. First of all, every day, I don't care if we call it meditation or whatever, we need to have pause time.
Mhm.
And that could be someone jogging, but while they're jogging, they're having ahas. It could be someone just turning off the TV at night and just sitting and writing in their journal about things that are important. It could be just closing their eyes. And I remember my mom said to me, never go to bed mad. So at the end of every day, I review the day. And I look at it in my mind, and I look at everything I liked about what I did or what happened, I give it a check mark. And then if I felt I had fallen down somewhere, then rather than going, oh, I see it the way I wish I had behaved. So I correct what I did before it gets lodged in the cells of my body.
Yeah. I love that.
And I see it positively.
Yeah.
So these are some things that even if it's not a practice with a candle and sitting cross-legged for 20 minutes, these are some things that we just need to do. We need to create space. The other thing, Mike, is that as we're doing my course or other courses like mine, where people are actually examining themselves, they're coming to, as you said the word, understand themselves better. And this understanding to understand themselves better makes it, then they can't be asleep anymore. They're now becoming conscious of their choices. So my work is to help them become conscious so that I don't have any way of influencing what choice they make, but can I do something to help them wake up so they become conscious to decide to make a choice?
Yeah.
Which hopefully will be more positive.
Giving
Yeah.
people their sense of awareness. I love that.
Yeah, because that's the difference between habit and choice, is being conscious.
Yep.
Aha.
If you're conscious, you're choosing. If you're not, it's a habit.
Mhm.
And that's why when we're in a habit situation, you think that the world's messing with you. But when you're conscious, like, you still make choices that don't work out, but you're like, I got to take that onto myself.
Mhm.
Now I know not to make that choice or what have you. And I've learned, when I've came to this understanding and learning about this stuff, my intuition became better. So the act of discernment became greater, which is kind of linked into intuition. And for anyone out there listening, you take Tanis's course or something like it, your natural intuition actually builds. So it's not about worrying, like, how do I know what to step into? I'm like, you'll know the next logical step when you get to the level. It's not leading the blind. It's brilliant. But in order to get up to see the valley a little bit, at least step a couple of steps up the mountain. You don't have to get to the top, but if you go up the mountain just a little bit and turn around, the valley became a little more vast, and realize, well, just keep going. See how amazing the valley becomes. You can see everything. So that little bit of just one foot in front of the other, one step at a time, is all you need in the beginning. And then at some level, it becomes quantum. It just, it's like, how did I get this far? I'm like, yeah, you enjoyed the process. You didn't notice how many steps you took. And that's the brilliance of it.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah, that
quantumness
is the
comes in there.
brilliance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as you said, after a while, you don't even have to think. You just are. You just are in the flow.
Yeah.
It skips the mental process of having to decide.
Yeah.
That's the state we want to get to.
Well, that's
the ideal state.
that's the childlike state. We
Yep.
didn't contemplate when we were children. We just, like,
We were.
the only time we scoured was when our parents were ripping us from the very thing we loved, like the playground.
Mhm.
But
We're just so riddled with thought nowadays, and
Yeah.
we're not just naturally taught about this instrument and what this body is. We're taught we're a separate physical being and get out there and make as much money as you can, and that's not the case whatsoever. And so when you kind of dive deeper and you start to understand, oh, okay, this is an instrument, that's what this body is, this experience, this is a gift. This isn't this isn't meant to be a place that there's no way to win. And so it's like it's helping us remember who we really are in our most natural state, like you're talking about, and letting go of that constant thinking mind that is narrating everything throughout our day.
And so when Mike said something, like a thought came in.
Yeah.
It's sort of like when you're on the road traveling and you have a radio station on and you're leaving the area, and all of a sudden you get that static because you're in between radio stations. That's the chatter. So it's part of the process. So people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's like Winston Churchill said, when you're going through hell, just keep going. Because eventually your radio station that's tuned in will pick up another receiver and the music will come clear. But you don't stop in the chatter. You have to trust going through it. And that's why I think humanity is going through the chatter. Because at one point we were quiet. And now we're going through the chatter, but I could start hearing that other radio station kick in. And now I'm going to speed the car up. I'm going to speed the car because my favorite song is on. I don't want to hear any static. So I speed up in the direction of where the tower is, the signal is. All of a sudden, now it kicks in. I'm like, oh, wow. Now it's going to be a while before that happens again. And that's what when you said the chatter, that's really what it's just static.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm thinking of you two guys, and I'm thinking of you doing this program is raising your consciousness. Because because in doing it, you used to be two guys talking like this together. But now you bring in a third. Every week you bring in a third.
2 plus 2 is 3.
Yeah.
2 plus 2 is
But
3.
one
And
plus
then
1
you
is
put,
3, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, 1 plus 1, yeah.
And then you put 3 together and maybe we make 5.
Mhm.
So you've taken a step in creating this to actually accelerate your evolution.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so everybody can do this. I'm not suggesting everybody needs to create a podcast, but that if we actually see what our soul, and people say, oh, I have no idea. I have no idea. Oh, well, then take the first step, because people often think if I don't see the goal at the end, I'm not even starting down the path. And
No,
that is completely erroneous.
you're
You
right.
just take the first step that seems like the right thing to do. And then you see step 2, and then you see step 4, and then da, 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 da.
Yeah.
I learned this from Zazep Tulku Rinpoche, who was he was a Tibetan friend of mine,
Mhm.
Tibetan Buddhist monk. And I was in my 30s, and I had been my goal was enlightenment.
Mhm.
And I went off to Ireland, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Drink
Enlightened
more beer.
after I gave up my relationship, my house, my job, and everything. It didn't happen. And I came back, and I was talking to him, and and I said, well, I'm completely empty now. I have no idea. I had one goal. It didn't happen. I'm like in my mid-30s, and I'm completely empty. And he looked at me as if I was thinking I was going to check out, right? And I started to laugh, and I said, no, I'm not going to check out.
Yeah.
Yep.
However, what should I do? And he said to me, just choose one thing you like to do and do that. And I thought, okay, I like traveling to sacred sites around the world,
Yeah.
and I like people. Okay, I'll take them on a tour to Ireland. And that started me doing 22 years of taking people to sacred site tours around the world. I did one a year.
And it was just a brief conversation, it sounded like you had with
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, but just choose one thing
Yeah.
that has a little bit of joy in it
That's it.
and take that step.
Yeah, that's a driving engine right there of life. It just follow your like, 'cause they used to use the words bliss, but follow your joy as best you can and see what comes of it. But if you think something miraculous has to come and you can't see it, you're not gonna take that step because the mountain's too tall. It's like, yeah, I'm like, no, it's just one step at a time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's brilliant.
true.
Yeah.
And it's truly about that level of trust and knowing because we can all picture, something we love, or, that highest passion, something. And then we allow the thinking analytical mind to come in and get in the way and say, well, what about this? And how would this work out? And
Yeah.
we don't know how this would be achieved if this happens. And we start, tripping all over ourselves. And that is exactly what stops the energy that's in motion, and then nope. We're not following our higher path. We're not tuning into our higher self. We're limiting our being, if you will. And so it's a lot of getting over that fear, that feeling of the unknown, and taking that step with confidence, knowing, hey, this is going to work out. I don't know how, but I know it's going to work out. Why? Because everything's always worked out up into this point.
Yeah. And then not knowing actually becomes exciting,
Yeah.
understanding how the process works.
Mhm.
Because nobody wants to, like, everyone loves a surprise, but that's why they call it a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
But if you knew everything was choreographed, it'd be rather laborious at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boring.
Yeah. Yeah. Very. It was just very boring. Yeah.
Well, it's wonderful being with you guys again.
Yeah.
Oh.
Same here. And we'll have to have you back on when when your book is out.
Yeah,
Talk about that,
absolutely.
The Dragon's Tail.
The
The
Dragon's
Dragon's
Tail.
Tail.
Yeah.
And we're excited.
I'll let you know.
How many is this for you now? Is that your 8th, ninth.
Ooh, wow,
Yeah.
you're good at that. I think it's 8 or 9.
Yeah. I was gonna say we just your catalog alone, you've got several good ones. So congratulations on what I think
Yeah.
is number 9.
Yeah, could be.
All
Could
right.
be.
Well, it's exciting to see what you've shared with the audience today, Tanis. As always, it's a pleasure having you on. And it's for those listening who want to tune in to this Answer Your Soul's Call seminar or, series that you're doing, is the best way to access it going to be on your website? How can people sign up to take part in the
Yes,
course with you?
it would be on my website. So you can go to www.myspiritualtransformation.com.
Okay.
My spiritual transformation. And we'll
myspiritualtransformation.com.
put that on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah,
And we'll
people
put a
can just
link.
Oh,
tap on it
thanks.
and link to it, so
Yep.
it'll be easy for them to get there. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks.
So we highly suggest anyone out there listening to look into this. I was looking at the course. It's very reasonable
Yeah,
for what you're going to get for it. So
absolutely.
it's well worth the investment into your life, because hey, we're here to change and everyone knows it. So why not start from the right foot by listening to Tanis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got quite the guide in front of you right
Yeah,
here.
you do. Yeah.
And hey, good luck too on your visit to Boulder when you visit Regina again,
Yeah.
Meredith. That's going to be an
Oh,
exciting show for you.
Yeah.
yeah, that'll be in March.
In
Is
March.
that okay? So you're
Okay.
going to talk about Dragon's Tail then?
Gosh, we haven't even talked about what I'm going to talk about. So I have
Oh, that's
no idea
exciting.
what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Knowing Regina will be a lot to talk about.
Yeah. She
I'm
does a
sure.
great job
Yeah.
with her interviews.
Yeah. Okay,
All right.
so blessings on everything that you do.
Enjoy the rest of Kauai, your time in Hawaii, and it is such a pleasure speaking with you. We'll see you back here towards the end of this year. We'll try to get you back in September, October.
Yeah. Much love.
Okey-dokey. Okay,
All right.
bye-bye.
Great
Bye.
to see you.
Bye.
Bye, Tanis.
Perspective Shift is brought to you by fdailycoaching.com. If you're seeking assistance to help navigate you through a difficult time or feel challenged to reach your full potential, Frank Daly can guide you to a perspective that will allow you to utilize your imagination and experience a more fulfilling and satisfying life. Frank has been working with people for over 20 years as a coach, helping them understand the power they have to transform their lives.